Welcome to this miter saw safety demo. You'll have read your sheet by now, hopefully, going over the different safety tips and all of our parts of the machine here. This safety demo here will cover all the parts and safe operation of the miter saw. A lot of you might have this in your garage already, which is great. It's a familiar tool here. Let's just go over the parts of the miter saw. We have a table and we have a fence. Most machines in the shop have a table and a fence. That's always where your wood goes, is against those two. Okay, there's a blade guard here, covers the blade. We always make sure that that blade guard is operating and it goes back and forth over top of the blade, spring loaded. Handle, trigger, and we have two angle adjustments on this machine. We have the horizontal angle adjustment right here. Okay, there's a knob that locks it in place. We loosen it, and a lever lifts up, and we can have this horizontal angle adjustment. Most of the time when we're breaking out stock, we're only going to have it at 0 degrees, right? Oh, that's a little bit over, 0 degrees there. And then we just tighten it to have a lock in place here. Just finger tight only. We don't want to crank it on there and break it. On the back here, there's a knob as well, and we loosen that to do the vertical angle adjustment. Goes back and forth like this. Now you should double check the back here because 0 isn't all the way one way. As you can see, the saw is tilted a little bit there. You need to push it up for it to reach the 0 mark here on the indicator back here. And again, finger tight level here at the back. So those are the parts: table, fence, horizontal angle adjustment, vertical angle adjustment, blade guard, handle, trigger. Now, before you come up to any machine, you need to check yourself. You need to make sure that you don't have long loose sleeves or long jewelry, bling bling. Okay, check your hair. Make sure that nothing's going to get caught in the machine, and of course, you're going to wear some safety glasses. Well, every single machine you'll wear safety glasses. So, I'm going to put that on. And now I'm going to get my piece of wood that I'm going to cut here. Now, you always want to double check your wood. Make sure that there are no screws, knots, or anything that could become a projectile if it hits the saw, could damage the saw. Okay, we're going to take our measuring tape here and we're going to measure the piece that we need. Okay, so I'm going to measure, and I'm going to measure this at 12 inches. 12 inches is a magic number you hear in the shop all the time. It's the minimum length that any piece of wood should be cut on the saw, not because of the miter saw, but because of the planer that we have in the room that's just that way, okay? The planer has feed rollers that grip the wood and pull it into the machine, and if a piece of wood is less than 12 inches, those feed rollers will lose control and that wood will tumble in the machine and damage the planer, and we don't want that to happen. So, minimum 12 inches. So, again, never cut a piece of wood less than 12 inches. Remember that. After we've made our measurement, we need to remember something else here. Here's a line we've just made. We've measured from the opposite end over here. We need to make sure our saw lands on the other side of this line, okay? That way, the saw, when it cuts away material, will cut away material from the piece that we don't need. Okay, that way our piece will be exactly what we measured. So our wood goes on to the table here. Always the wood is against the table and against the fence. If the wood is away from the fence and you're holding this piece of wood here, this saw is going to pull that piece of wood against the fence and ouch, okay, you're going to mash your fingers. And always make sure that the wood is on the table and against the fence. I'm going to move the saw down. Again, I'm putting the saw on the side of the pencil mark. That is my waist side, right? This is the side I measured. I want to keep this length. Make sure your saw goes on the other side of that pencil line. Perfect. Now that I've got that lined up, I have my wood against the table and the fence. It's ready to go. Where are my hands going to go? I've got to hold the wood, don't I? Make sure that your hands are at least 4 inches away from the blade. Always 4 inches away from the blade to keep that good margin of safety. 4 inches is a magic number. In centimeters, that's about 10 centimeters. So my hand is going to go right about here. Okay? At the end of the fence here is safe, pushing that way. Okay? Just so you can see the operation, I'm going to push it this way. Now, whenever you do an operation, you don't want to cross over your arms. Okay? Get yourself all befuddled and mixed up. Even though I'm right-handed, I'm going to do it left-handed so that you can see the operation happen here. Okay? So I've done it. I've lined it up there. I'm holding it. My hand's at least 4 inches away. I'm going to turn on the saw, let it come to full speed. Okay? Make sure when you turn that saw on to come to full speed that it's not touching the wood. If it's touching the wood, it's going to rip out chunks out of the top of your wood, and you're not going to like that. You're going to have to get another piece, okay? So I start it, come up to full speed, slowly make my cut. After I finish my cut, I'll let it turn off, come to a full stop. Then I will lift up the blade and take my wood away. Here's what that looks like. Full speed. Let it come to a full stop and lift it up. Okay, and then we have our pieces. Fairly straightforward. Again, to review it, table, fence, horizontal angle adjustment, vertical angle adjustment, handle, trigger, blade guard that we've checked that is working and retracting. Our wood, we check it for obstructions. Make sure there's no nails, screws, staples, rocks, anything like that. Our wood is against the table and against the fence. Saw comes up to full speed, cut, let it stop, lift it up, away you go. When you make the cut, your arms are not crossed over. Okay, make sure you don't have that mixed up. Your hands at least 4 inches away. If you do want to make a cut with the angles here, please make sure you double check with your instructor to make sure that it's something you can do. Basically, don't do any operation that has not been demonstrated to you on this saw. And that concludes the miter saw demo. Thanks.